It's time for episode 14 of the Ball Card Show. I'm Jason.
I'm Gary.
And we're glad to be here.
Yeah, we are. We're
I beat
excited.
you to it. I knew you were going to say that.
We've been sitting here prepping for the episode, laughing a lot. We'll try to keep any inside jokes to a minimum, but we're in kind of that laugh at crazy stuff mode right now.
Just
so
silly boys.
Fair warning. It's been a kind of an interesting week. So Jason went to Nashville last weekend.
I did.
And had a good time. I've got some videos that he sent me a couple of different times. I'm not sure exactly what was happening. I'm not sure he is either.
It's NFTs.
You can buy those moments and be the only person that owns them.
I hope.
We'll keep our fingers crossed if that's the case. Also, Jason and I both had birthdays this week.
That's right.
Jason's is actually today.
Mm-hmm.
So in your minds, tell him happy birthday, and he'll hear it and feel it through the ether sphere of the web.
You're saying really weird things today.
Am I?
Yeah. The other thing that was weird was just like, we're just down here having inside jokes and being silly boys. It reminds me of that viral video. Did you ever see the one where there's the old lady? It's like a man on the street video. The reporter goes up and is like, what are you going to do with this winter storm that's coming in? She said, oh, we'll probably just make a bunch of breads and soups and just get all fat and sassy.
I have
That's how
not
you
seen
sounded.
that, but that does sound like an
If
awesome
you
way to spend a
Googled
winter
what
storm.
I just like rewind it, write it down verbatim, and then just search that in Google,
You'll find it?
you'll probably find that video.
Oh, okay.
Because you know how they always have different names for them, but
Okay. I'll tell you right
no,
now that I'm going to do
fat
that.
and sassy.
I'm probably not going to, but it does sound like a great way to spend a winter storm.
Yeah, I'd hang out with
Soup
that
and
lady
bread?
for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. All day long, especially if it's like,
You don't like bread though, but you like it in soup.
no, I'll dip it into the bowl at the end and like
It's like
use
an
it as
edible spoon?
Yeah, like if I'm exactly. Just clean that thing or a bread bowl, put the soup in the bread. That is next level.
Now, do you eat the whole bread afterwards, or just,
Oh yeah, because it's like kind of this just like delicious soaked up sloppy mess with a crust on the outside?
was Panera the first time you'd had one of those?
No, I'm wanting to say I had like a French onion soup bread bowl on a cruise when I was like 8 years old.
Yeah.
It was a long time ago.
Yeah. So this show is about sports.
We feel like the first 5 minutes of every show we have to remind everybody that it's actually about sports, but we kind of just like to shoot it a little bit, talk a little bit. My birthday was a couple of days ago. Did next to nothing. We went to the Pumpkin Show, which is one of my least favorite places on the earth.
But it's the greatest free show.
Oh, it's terrible. If you
I had
live
someone
in the
tell
town
me
that it's
that.
in, it's awful.
So I had someone respond to me when I told them I didn't like it, and they're like, it's the greatest free show on earth. And I was like, what do you mean? That's what it is. Just because it was on like
It's on the
stickers
sticker.
and stuff. And I basically at some point was like, can you quantify what you're saying at all?
So basically, if you take the human content of every Walmart on the south end of every big city in America and dump it into a tiny Midwestern town for 4 days, that's a Pumpkin Show.
Yeah, you got to lock everything down.
It's horrifying. It's just truly, truly horrifying. It's not an enjoyable experience.
Did you fart?
No, I didn't, but your brain might be smelling Pumpkin Show just reflexively.
Are you sure?
I'm 100% sure. But, yeah,
Yeah, pumpkin show.
it's rough. It's not fun. So we went there on Tuesday night for my birthday.
I mean, nothing says fall like pumpkin chili, pumpkin pizza. I tried that. That
Yeah,
wasn't
it's
good.
not good. None of it's good. Pumpkin burger, it's not good. You can't put pumpkin spice on everything. But for 1 week in October in Circleville, Ohio, they do.
Break out your Uggs and your flannels.
And your bank account, because if you spend more than an hour there, it's going to cost you $200.
In food.
Right. Yeah, I got some German potato salad from the Schmidt stand, $8 for just like a regular human-sized version of German
good?
potato salad. Oh, it's really good.
Yeah. Is that like the hash brown style?
No. It's like the kind of like sour, tart, warm
Okay.
German potato salad.
So there's an Amish restaurant in southern Indiana called the Black Buggy,
Okay.
and and Lakeview. But
The Black Buggy says Amish way better than Lakeview does.
well, that was Lakeview Amish restaurant.
Oh, that pretty much says it too.
Yeah. So, but they would do like hash brown style, like real thin slice, and make the potato salad with that, and that was
Yeah. That's
Real
a
good.
solid move. None of it beats like Cracker Barrel hash brown casserole.
potentially.
Yeah. So anyway, on to sports cards and sports, because that's what you're here for, not just our witty banter. NBA opened up this week. When Tuesday we had 2 games. Last night we had a full slate of games on Wednesday night. I know that I was talking about how LaMelo was not looking great in the preseason, and I stand by that because it was the case. And then he went out on opening night last night and hung 31, 9, and 7 and shot 7 of 9 from the 3-point line and made me look like a dummy.
I like that.
I bet you every week, just so you guys are aware, every single episode when we're show prepping, Jason's like, okay, what can we talk about that you made a mistake on? How can we dive into something
Well, you just
that
come in,
you screwed up?
You just go so hard in the paint with your takes.
Yeah, confidence matters.
That's like when somebody goes up for a dunk and gets swatted.
Yeah,
Like,
well,
who doesn't like to see that?
Yeah, I we'll see if LaMelo keeps it up.
Yeah.
But at least for opening night, he proved me wrong. He went ham. You know who else went ham? Anthony Edwards.
Yes.
Starting finally, not coming off the bench, threw up 29 on opening night. The T-Wolves got a win out of the gate. Karl Anthony Towns looked good.
Mm-hmm.
They might have a little something happening there between those guys and D'Angelo Russell.
Is Cat still pretty affordable?
Yeah, and I think he probably will be. He's not even remotely a Hall of Famer. He's one of those weird dudes that for years there was so much potential there, but the team has been so bad that even when he was, hanging 26, 27 a night with 10 rebounds, averaging a double-double, there was still just no anything around him. And
buzz.
no, you can probably, I haven't looked because I don't care. And I think that most people feel that way, but I'd be shocked if his PSA 10 Prism rookies were more than $100.
Yeah.
I'd be shocked. He's not somebody that I'd be targeting. Yeah, so it was nice to see. The other guy that kind of had a really strong opening night, he was one of the Wednesday night opening slate of games. The Warriors played the Lakers and beat them. They beat them with LeBron and Anthony Davis both going off.
And Russell.
Russell Westbrook dropped his 8 points. That's going to be so bad. We've said it before, but that whole experiment out there with those 3 is not going to go well. Did you see the meme where it was the 2 guys just whipping a ball back and forth at each other? And it said LeBron and Russell Westbrook when each of them is 1 assist short of a triple-double. There's just video of these 2 guys just whipping a ball back and forth at each other. It was pretty great and true. So Jordan Poole, who came on strong at the end of last year when Steph Curry was hurt quite a bit and had a few really big games and was pretty consistent, is starting out there now since Klay Thompson's still a couple months out, and 20 points, played 30 minutes. If he is able to continue that level of production until Klay comes back, it's going to be interesting to see what the Warriors do. Yeah. If they're winning and he's putting up those kind of numbers and shooting efficiently, what do you do if you're the Warriors? Do you play small ball and go 3 guards? How do you approach that?
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens there. But that's opening week. There wasn't a whole lot else that really jumped out to me when I was looking at and watching some NBA stuff. All the guys that you would expect to have played pretty well. And the only rookie that really stood out was Duarte for the Pacers. He had a really good opening game, but it was 1 game.
Mm-hmm.
In the NBA, 1 game can make card values do stupid things. But it's worth keeping an eye on. There's not a lot of product out yet of those rookies, just some contender stuff. So, what do you, anything's NBA related you want to chime in with, or are you just going to nod and say, yeah, a lot when I talk this episode?
A lot of nodding and saying, yeah.
Okay, fair enough. So we're going to move on to the NFL
You
now?
know what? Do one thing that this has nothing to do with cards.
Okay.
But just hearing the organ for the NBA games, like in the background when you're doing stuff at night, knowing that's back on TV was a good feeling.
Yeah.
My wife actually was the one that pointed that out.
Your wife loves basketball,
Yeah, she's like, doesn't it just sound good to hear that?
and she hates LeBron.
Dun, 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 dun. Yeah.
Yeah, she loves basketball and she hates LeBron. You get Leslie going on LeBron.
We
you'll
do,
be here
like,
for an hour.
once we get, we'll do an NBA take with her. It'll be hilarious.
Oh, it will be. We'll bring her in as a guest and let her just spew
her love for
non-factual information about LeBron and her love for Kobe. It'll be interesting. NFL. So we're third.
Kobe. Tua's back.
Oh, and couldn't beat the Jags.
It wasn't.
Couldn't beat the Jags.
Yeah,
He didn't play horribly, but he couldn't beat the Jags. And the pick he threw was horrific.
Yeah. Dolphins are way worse than everybody thought they were going to be this year.
Yeah, there's a lot of talk that they're going to start like trading some of the defensive pieces, like Xavier Howard might be.
Well,
on the
we've got
block.
plenty to spare. That's how many points did we give up?
Yeah, 1-5, and Brian Flores at the end of that game looked like somebody had just ripped his soul out and stomped on it.
I think he knows that this is getting out of whatever momentum they had gained seems to be.
Yeah, going away.
Yeah.
The Bills are the cream of that division. Yeah, I mean, you guys didn't see the look Jason just gave me, but they are. There's nobody that's even close to them in that division. So now that we got our weekly Tua talk out of the way, the Cardinals 6-0. I've been telling you guys for 2.5 months. By Kyler.
For real.
That dude is legit. Just threw 4 more touchdowns, no picks. That team is really good, and he's really, really good. You may be close to the point where you are priced out of any graded stuff of his, unless he continues on and wins the MVP. His stuff maybe is peaked on graded stuff.
What if it's like a true pop one?
Sold it. Sold the other one too.
Did we talk about this yet?
I'm not sure. I think we did last week, but I also sold the 9.5 pop one
Did
that
you
I
get
had
what you
this
wanted
week
out of
too.
them?
Yeah, I did. I got more than I wanted out of both of them. So yeah, it turned out well. You just got to be a little bit of patient in the market as it is when you have stuff that people aren't clamoring over, even though it's really nice. Yeah. I mean, call it what it is. So the Cards looked really, really good, and Kyler's looking really good. Another guy on that team that people have kind of forgotten about. If he puts up the rest of the year the numbers that he has so far and throws another year, maybe 2 years onto it, AJ Green has kind of been reborn out there. He's healthy. He looks like he did in his heyday in Cincinnati. He's lost a little bit of speed, but he's still such a good route runner and such a good leaper. He looks really good out there and has provided them with a really viable threat on the outside away from DeAndre Hopkins. I actually think he's leading the team in targets and receptions right now. AJ Green's a guy who, a little bit of bias as a lifelong Bengals fan, he's a guy who was on a Hall of Fame trajectory with Andy Dalton for the majority of his career.
That receiving core.
So, yeah. If you want to speculate a little bit on somebody that's probably really cheap, AJ Green's maybe not a terrible move to jump on some of his rookie stuff. Justin Herbert looked human for a week, and the sky was falling. It was insane to watch the reaction within the hobby, and we're going to talk about in my rant time here a little later on that. But Justin Herbert was human for a week. The Ravens just defensively came to play ball. The Chargers flew across the country to Baltimore, and the Ravens put it on them. What's crazy to me is if you look at his stat line in that game and Lamar's stat line in the game, they're shockingly similar. Lamar had 50 yards rushing. Herbert didn't have that, but they were remarkably similar stat lines, but evidently Justin Herbert's now terrible. All of his stuff is worthless, and people who bought it are idiots. So that's the hobby in a nutshell right now. Lamar Jackson, whether you like it or not, is legit, folks. Straight, real life, legit NFL quarterback. Don't like it? You're wrong. That's all I have to say to you. And you're not going to be able to factually give me anything that tells me that I'm wrong.
Yeah, you're watching someone that seems very bionic.
It's freakish.
Yeah.
It's freakish what that dude can do with his feet and his arm. And I've said it, he just doesn't take hits. And if you're a running quarterback that doesn't take hits until you get really old, you're going to be really good. That's why Kyler's so good. And he's done a lot of his damage last few weeks in the pocket, but he'll get outside and do work too. The last guy NFL-wise I want to talk about is, again, a little homerish, but it doesn't change the reality. Jamar Chase, boys, if there's going to be a receiver from this year's class that has the hobby impact that DK Metcalf and A.J. Brown had a couple of years ago, it's going to be Jamar Chase.
And I think that there's a part of him, too, that's a little bit more like, just in relation to the hobby side of it, more press-worthy, like just the type of plays he's making.
Oh, yeah.
So it's more, acrobatic, the tough plays, which is going to lend to that Chad Ochocinco, your Odell, just some of those type of characters. When you have that kind of interest, just but playing with that kind of style, I think that there's going to be, whatever that quotient is, whatever you add on to that, the multiplier there. But I think just watching him go get some of the plays that most people shouldn't be able to.
Oh, yeah.
And weren't they kind of down on him going into the season?
They weren't down on him at all. At least publicly they weren't. A lot of analysts and hobby people were, because he has struggled a little bit in the preseason. Everybody forgot he hadn't played football in 16 months. He opted out last year during COVID and didn't play and needed to get back into football shape. I don't care how good a shape he kept himself in working out individually. That ain't football shape. It is not the same. But now he's doing some really impressive things, and he's getting the kind of attention that makes the hobby take notice. Another guy that's like that, and it's really weird to watch, and it's not on our list, but it popped into my mind. Traditionally, defensive players don't get a lot of hobby love. But right now, Trayvon Diggs is getting a ton of hobby love. I see all kinds of activity on social media, people trying to buy Trayvon Diggs. If you've got some numbered Trayvon Diggs stuff or autographed Trayvon Diggs stuff, sell it. Sell it now, because it's popping, and long term, until he establishes himself as a Hall of Fame worthy player, I don't think it's going to get any more valuable. And there's no way the dude racks up 20 interceptions on the year. He's averaging an interception, a little bit over an interception a game right now, and that's not sustainable. So that's my NFL kick in the can this week. You got anything you want to chime in with NFL-wise?
The Buffalo fan base, like you see it on TV.
They're roofing.
So, they were in Nashville for Monday Night Football. I got into Nashville Friday, early afternoon, and they had already taken over downtown.
Yeah.
And even though the game's on Monday, everyone's wearing their Bills gear in and out of the honky tonks, like literally taking over.
Making a point.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're here, and we're going to just drill you into the ground. And guess what they did?
Tell you what, though. Those Buffalo fans, they got to look.
Oh, no, for sure. Well, have you been to Buffalo? If you had to live in Buffalo, you'd have a look, too. I know there are a few people I know for a fact that listen to this podcast that are from Buffalo, and they're sitting there going, yeah, he's right. 100%. He's right. Joe, if you're listening, Joe Miller, hey, you get it. You understand.
I thought I saw him in Nashville.
You might have. It's very possible, because Joe's podcast, if you're looking for a good podcast to listen to that's Buffalo Bills oriented mostly, go check out the Overreaction podcast. This is an unpaid plug, but Joe Miller's a buddy of mine. Great podcast if you're a Bills fan.
Yeah. I think I saw him.
You might have.
Briefly.
Yeah. It wouldn't shock me if he came down, because he's a big Bills fan. As a matter of fact, the Bills' retired long snapper is the co-host of that podcast with Joe. So
that's crazy, because you're a retired professional football player too.
Yeah. But not at that level. Not at that level. Yeah. Oh, it's adorable.
What was the team? What team did you play for?
Which teams?
Yeah, which teams?
Nothing that anybody listening to this will have ever heard of.
Amuse me.
No.
I want to hear the team.
I'm not going to play your games right now.
On. All right, I said that very condescendingly before you even answered, so I would like to try again.
Yeah, it's not going to work. Yeah, I mean,
Were they local?
A couple were, a couple weren't. Arena 2. Yeah, there used to be an Arena 2.
Is that
He's
like
laughing at me.
Division 2?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, it's for all of us delusional guys who were like, we were pretty good at football, and we think in our heads that at some
They
point.
couldn't come up with a better name.
No, it
for
was just A2. It was Arena 2.
2.
All of us delusional guys who were like, yeah, we're good enough. If we just get a shot, we'll be able to play in the NFL. Yeah, we weren't. We weren't that good, and there was nothing we could do to change our genetics. But we hung on for too many years, and now we need knee replacements. So we got that going for us. Yeah, it's good times. It's always fun when your co-host and best friend just laughs at you hysterically as you're talking about this.
Oh, man.
It is poking the bear.
I wanted to draw a parallel to people who can't sing, but they think if I just get my song out there.
It's a little different. It's more like, if you're going to make that parallel, it's more like you're good enough as a singer that you've won some like statewide karaoke contests, and now you think that you should win America's Got Talent. It's not the same thing.
Oh, okay.
That's a better parallel. There's the ability to sing is there in both areas, but it ain't the same.
Okay.
It's like when I hang out with Andy. We're both 6'4"-ish. He's got me by 20 pounds, but we're similar size, but we ain't the same.
Yeah, it's just drastically different.
Yeah, drastically different. He played in the NFL. I didn't. So, anyhow, there's that. That was Jason's contribution to NFL talk for the week. Let's make fun
Those
of Gary.
Buffalo fans are out there, man. 3 days early.
Hey, I will say this. Buffalo won that game. Derrick Henry is a freaking monster.
Yeah.
I saw Des Bryant tweeted that Derrick Henry is the character we all made in Madden when we were kids. And it's the truth. He's an absolute freak show. That long run he had, he hit 21.8 miles an hour. That's literally basically a Honda Civic hitting you going 20 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it might have a few pounds on him, but essentially.
Yeah, he's a beast.
Yeah, freak.
So, no, I wouldn't buy his cards, though. Running backs don't hold a lot of value if you can get them cheap. I've got a PSA 10 Derrick Henry rookie, green elite. Yeah, nobody cares though. Yeah. So rant time. Do you want to intro rant time? Do you want to really poke me and get me going, or do you just want me to dive into
I just think
rant
you
time?
start, and then I'll interrupt you when I feel like it's fit.
Okay. Rant for the week. Overreaction culture in the sports card hobby makes me freaking crazy.
Subtitle: How ironic.
You say that, but I'm specifically talking about within the sports card hobby.
Yeah.
I overreact to lots of things in life in general, but within the sports card hobby, I'm not an overreaction guy. Why are you laughing at me? Provide an example of something that I have overreacted to within
It's
the
just
sports
so
card
hard
hobby.
because I feel like that's your natural disposition.
It's not. Not within the hobby. Not within what we talk about here. Not within what we put money and time into here.
Okay.
In life in general, I will admit, I tend to be reactionary and sometimes overreactionary.
But when it comes to this
Sports
particular
cards,
hobby,
I am not.
dead serious about it.
I'm pretty serious about it, and I definitely don't race. So here's my contention. The hobby didn't used to be like this. And then a lot of what we call the flip culture came in, right? And this is the same group of people who used to flip sneakers. And they tend to be primarily basketball fans and have bled into other parts of the hobby. NBA cards are an area where game to game, you will see massive fluctuations in value of players. Somebody could be almost nobody, but if they're a rookie or a second-year player that people have kind of thought had potential and they hang 30, their stuff will triple 5, 6, 7x in a day. And those people have tried to apply that same approach to baseball and football. And it doesn't work. It's not the same. I said it earlier talking about Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert had a game where he looked like a slightly above average NFL quarterback. He wasn't terrible by any stretch. It's not like he looked like Zach Wilson. And you'd have thought, based on the social media reaction in the hobby, in the card hobby, that Justin Herbert was a bust. The world was coming to an end. If you bought Justin Herbert stuff, you're an idiot, blah, 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 blah. It makes me want to pull the hair directly. It's just like with baseball. Baseball is a marathon. You can't – there are hundreds of dudes in the history of the major leagues that have hit 3 home runs in a game and you've never heard of them again. It's not like basketball. And even basketball shouldn't be that way, but that part of the hobby has kind of always been that way. Mm-hmm. But in the NFL especially, you have Justin Herbert has played just a little bit over 1 full season in the NFL. And he's had 1 game, one, that is remotely a stinker. And if you've been a lifelong Bengals fan, it was basically an average Andy Dalton game for 10 years. And you'd have thought that the world was coming to an end. I've heard people complaining that Patrick Mahomes stuff is overpriced and maybe he's in trouble and he's not going to be a good quarterback. What? What? Are you out of your... Do you know the game of football at all? Do you understand what you're seeing when you look at the field? Because when you say things like that, my assumption is that you are a moron.
So what you're doing right now...
Oh, I'm pretty fired up. I'm getting deep into my fired up.
Like, I don't know how to word it, but like, if you had a reaction, then you just want to add more. Well, like, if I had to... No, hold on. I'm almost done. If I had to guess what that would sound like. It's you.
It's this, but this isn't an overreaction. This is an appropriate
reaction. You're underreacting
this is
to
an
their
appropriate reaction to other people's overreactions.
Is that called escalating or?
No, it's called foot sideways in stupid people's asses. That's what it's called.
Oh, you said a naughty.
I did say a naughty, but at the end of the day, you can't. People are, Patrick Mahomes has thrown 8 interceptions. Yes, and 7 of them bounced off receivers' hands. If you can watch Patrick Mahomes play football and say that, he's overrated, I will never take anything you say about the game of football seriously.
So don't you think that's more hobby related, more like selfishness? The more buzz there is that people should be scared and sell. I mean, that's usually the sharks are doing that.
There's market manipulation, but I will tell you this. If you know somebody who's in the Patrick Mahomes is overrated camp, buy all their Patrick Mahomes and hold it for 20 years, and it'll be worth $30,000. You're welcome. Tip of the day. The dude's a Hall of Fame football player. Unless he gets killed in a car crash tomorrow,
my God,
he's a Hall of Fame football player. Like, my point is that if you know the game, there are dudes that you can see. And I'm not saying that in general that every person that's a good football player is hobby relevant. Because we were just talking about receivers. I'll give you a perfect example of a dude who I think is a top 10 to 15 wide receiver in the NFL who doesn't get any hobby love, and that's Terry McLaurin. Terry McLaurin is one of the best receivers in the league. If he was playing on a team where he had anything resembling competent quarterback play,
for sure,
we'd be talking about him as in the same way we talk about DK Metcalf and DeAndre Hopkins. The dude is the real deal. He doesn't get any hobby love. The thing that people forget is that hobby love and actual football skill aren't always the same thing. Just like being good at fantasy football, if you're putting up points in fantasy football, it doesn't necessarily mean you're really good at actual football. Jalen Hurts is not having what you would call a good year as an actual football player, but he's a top 5 fantasy player. Because it's all they got.
Yeah.
He ain't throwing touchdown passes, but he's running for a bunch. Sam Darnold's in the same boat. Sam Darnold's leading the NFL in touchdown rushes. Doesn't mean he's a good quarterback. I don't think he's a terrible quarterback, but he's not a great quarterback. You know who's a terrible quarterback? Zach Wilson. He's trash. He's really bad at football. In general, though, this idea that if somebody has a slightly off game, that all of a sudden the world's coming to an end is just idiocy. And if you're somebody who thinks Patrick Mahomes is overrated, sell me all your Mahomes stuff. Hit us up on Facebook. I will buy it from you.
I see the same attempt with some of this with baseball, and people just aren't responding to it, just over the longer scope of that. So I'm wondering, when you think about players that we've seen this overreaction to, and it can be both ways. I think sometimes they're like, oh, this person had one good game. So who are a few that you think of where it's like been most abused or manipulated?
Both directions?
Mm-hmm.
Well, you talk about some of the big names that are younger guys in major leagues that I think it applies to. Ronald Acuna hurts his knee, and all of a sudden his stuff drops 80%.
Yeah.
If you were smart, you bought all of it that you could put your hands on. Because that dude, baseball is not a sport where an ACL tear is going to ruin your life.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of playing center, they'll move him to right, and they'll put Christian Pache at center next year, and life will go on.
Mm-hmm.
And the dude will still hit. He might not steal as many bases, but how many people pay attention to stolen bases in the major leagues now anyway? It's not really a big part of the game. We'll never see another guy steal 100 bases, ever. It's just not part of the game anymore. The game is OBP and long ball. That's the game now. Juan Soto started off the year a little bit hurt and didn't hit the ball super well until after the All-Star game, and his stuff dropped 40%.
Mm-hmm.
Baseball.
On the other side of that, the Alonso thing we talked about, where people were huge on him, and you're like, after home run derby.
And what did it do?
Yeah.
It all tanked, because guess who Pete Alonso is? He's a top 20 home run guy and a bottom 30% batting average guy, and he's not going to have 100 RBIs because the guys on the team aren't that good in front of him. He hit 37 home runs. He batted 260.
Yeah.
Cool. There's about 30 guys in the league that do that.
All right, NFL. I felt like there was a big push, everybody freaking out over Lamar last year and seeing a pretty significant dip, and there were people buying in that are real happy with it right now.
Well, yeah, those are the people who have brains in their heads and actually know what they're looking at. I guess for me, that's the biggest thing. And this is something that I apply to all aspects of life. If you don't actually know what you're talking about, shut up. Just shut up, because you sound like an idiot and you piss people who actually know what they're talking about off. And then you turn into a troll with it and keep poking them. And then you end up with me giving a rant like this on a podcast.
Yeah.
Like, if you don't know what you're talking about, shut up. It's okay to just be a fan of football.
And it's okay for you to be a day trader, not a long-term investor.
Yep.
And you got to understand that that's, for those that are doing the shorter flips, and they probably still have collections too, but they do this, a lot of these shorter flips, it is that 3-day window. It is that week. It is, shorten it or buying or whatever you got to do. So,
which is fine if that's your game, but don't pretend that you're making a statement that applies in the great grand scheme of things. You're in a short-term window. But in general, it's okay to be like, yeah, I just don't know enough about this to speak intelligently about it, so I'm going to keep my mouth shut. People should practice that more.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know you're sitting there thinking, yeah, you should do the same thing. And you're
I didn't
probably
say
right.
anything.
No, but I saw it in
It's
your eyes.
conscience.
I saw it in your eyes. I'm not immune to that, but I do try really hard to not pipe off about things that I don't at least have a reasonably solid grasp on. Football just happens to be something that I have more than a solid grasp on.
It's like you always used to say, A2 every day.
Oh, gosh. No, I mean, the reality of it is that football is something that I know about. Baseball, I will defer to you on baseball every time, because you've probably forgotten more about baseball than I know. I'm a very casual baseball fan. I can recognize what a good swing looks like when I see it. But all the underlying fundamental stuff, you know way more about than I do. Just like my buddy Cody, who's a minor league umpire. Like, if I have a question about a prospect, I go to him. He sees them every day. He's a AAA umpire. So I'll get information from people who know more than me. And when they tell me something that disagrees with what I think, I don't just laugh at them and call them an idiot.
Did you get picked on a thread?
Did I get picked on a thread?
Like, were you on Facebook? This is just.
Oh, I'm
seems like-
always on Facebook.
It seems
but-
like this is getting strangely specific. the more
No,
you go on.
I'm just talking about in general. Don't bark up trees when you don't have the right information to go there
Get
with.
a good look at the T-bone.
You're, you're going Tommy Boy right here, aren't you?
That's what you sounded like.
Anyway,
Don't dog you bark the tree.
don't bark up the tree if you don't have the right information. You know what I'm saying? That's not how that goes.
What are you
Yeah,
trying to
I don't
say?
know. I'm still in rant mode and just words are falling out of my
You
mouth.
said you corrected it with don't
What I said, my point is very simple.
don't bark up the tree
Yeah.
if you don't have the answer.
Yeah, in general, it goes back to the very first thing I said. If you don't know what you're talking about, shut the hell up.
What does that mean? Don't bark up the tree if you
I'm
don't
not-
have
I think everybody gets the point I was trying to make. Right? Maybe? Okay.
Yeah, I think
Well, hey, I made you chuckle. So we had that. So that's the end of my rant for the week. Overreaction culture makes me crazy. Are you okay over there?
I'm all right. Red paperclip update.
Oh, yeah. What's your red paperclip update?
I am calm, poised, and waiting for the right moment to strike.
So you've done nothing. I made a trade already. And hey, if you're listening, this is a listener I made a trade with. Hey, Trace. Good man.
Oh, are we dipping into the listener pool?
I'm dipping into whatever pool I can.
All right.
The point of this.
Y'all hit me up.
Yeah. So, Trace, thanks.
I got that SGC 10.
Zion.
Zion. Yeah, Zion. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's Zion.
Yep.
So,
Yeah. So
holla
I
at
traded,
your boy.
I traded that CD.
All of our listeners.
He doesn't want to hear me say
All right,
this.
go ahead.
I traded that CD Liam Green Velocity Optic for a PSA 8 Dan Marino rookie. So that's the first move.
I feel like you're trying to mess with me with that trade.
A little bit. Not gonna
Like,
lie.
I'm gonna
I
get this
absolutely
card.
did. Yeah.
And you'll be like, man, I wish I had that. And then I'm going to trade it for something else before you can get it.
Yeah. It's a nice looking card too. And to be frank, I think that it's maybe if I cracked it and resubbed it, I think it might get a 9. It's a pretty solid card. I won't do that because it's outside the
Yeah,
rules of
I've
the
just
game,
been just strategizing.
but- Have you?
Yeah.
I think you've just been in Nashville and then working.
Yep.
Not paying any attention to the Red Paperclip project.
I'm busy having birthdays.
Just a birthday.
Yeah. You don't get
We're
more than-
celebrating our birthdays this weekend, though.
That's right.
Hey, if any of y'all are in Cincinnati this weekend and want to hang, hit us up.
No, maybe. I don't know who it is yet.
Well, that's why I said hit us up. They don't have our phone number. They can hit us up on Facebook, and then we can ignore it if we want to.
Basically, what we're trying to say is if you bark up the tree, you better have the right answers.
Ah, shut up.
Bye.
Bye.